He sat quietly on the subway, lost in thought, buried in pain from a past he couldn't forget. Then suddenly, a little girl, seeing how sad he was, stood before him and began to sing. Her voice was soft, pure, and filled with emotion. But what shook him to his core was the song itself, the same love song he once shared with his ex-wife. Reby quietly stepped onto the crowded subway train, holding several grocery bags and a small pack of medicine. Her mother had been sick for days, and Reby, though just a little girl, had taken it upon herself to help. The train was noisy, filled with tired faces. Some passengers looked at her with pity, others with surprise, as she struggled to balance the heavy bags that seemed too much for her tiny hands. Not far from her sat a man in a neat dark suit, staring blankly at his phone. His name was Jason. "Daniel, we're just going around in circles," he said in a tired voice. "I just want to know where she is now. Please, help me find her." His voice trembled as he ended the call. The truth was, he didn't want the divorce. She had been the one who insisted. Yet something in his heart kept whispering that she was still nearby. Just then, a small, sweet voice interrupted his thoughts. "Excuse me, sir, can I sit here?" Jason looked up. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7, stood before him, holding 2 big bags that looked far too heavy for her tiny frame. She had a bright smile and a small gap in her front teeth. "Of course," Jason said, smiling faintly. "You can sit." Reby smiled with relief and dropped her bags gently beside her. Even though she was sweating, she looked cheerful. Jason couldn't help but notice how mature she seemed, the way she moved, the way she spoke, like a small old woman in a child's body. He watched quietly as she pulled out a tiny towel and wiped her face. Something about her made his chest tighten. He looked around, expecting to see her parents nearby, but no one seemed to be watching her. Something about her tugged at his heart. If my wife and I hadn't divorced, he thought sadly, our child would probably be her age now. Reby noticed the sadness in his eyes. His face carried that same quiet pain she often saw on her mother's face when she thought no one was watching. Then, without a word, Reby began to sing. "There goes my heart beating, 'cause you are the reason. I'm losing my sleep, please come back now." Her voice was soft but clear, echoing through the train. Heads turned. Passengers stared in surprise as the little girl continued to sing with her missing teeth and innocent voice. When she finished, the whole carriage clapped. Jason, however, was frozen. His eyes filled with tears. That song, it wasn't just any song. It was their song. The song he used to sing with his ex-wife, Nora, the same woman he had been desperately searching for. "Hey, mister, why are you crying?" Reby asked, tilting her head curiously. "Didn't you like my song? I saw you looking sad, and my mommy said when someone is sad, you should sing this song to make the sadness go away." Jason chuckled weakly and wiped his tears. "I loved your song. It really helped. Thank you." "You're welcome," she said proudly. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "I'm Reby," she replied. "What is yours?" "Jason," he replied softly. "Are you alone?" Reby hesitated. Her smile faded a little. "Yes. My mom is sick, but our house isn't far. I went to buy food and medicine. Don't worry. I know the way well. I won't get lost." Jason checked his watch. It was getting late. "You bought so much. Let me help you carry the bags home." Reby blinked, thinking, "I don't have money to pay you, mister." Jason laughed. "You don't have to pay me." Reby giggled. "Okay, but I can give you this." She lifted a small pack of chocolate proudly. "I promised my best friend I'd give her one, but I can give you one too." Jason smiled warmly. "But when we reach my house, I'll give you one." Reby said, "You must work before you get paid." Jason smiled warmly. "Deal." When the train stopped, they both stepped out. The evening breeze brushed gently against their faces as Jason carried the heavy bags, and Reby skipped happily beside him, talking nonstop. Soon they reached a small, tidy house with a black gate. "This is it," Reby said proudly. "Come in." Jason followed quietly. "Mom, I'm home," she shouted, then quickly covered her mouth. "Oops. Mama's sick. I forgot." Jason smiled at her innocence. He looked around the little house. It wasn't fancy, but it was neat, full of love. "Reby," he asked softly, "where's your dad? Is he at work?" Reby shook her head sadly. "I don't have a dad. Mom and Dad separated. I take care of Mama now." Her words hit Jason like a stone. He helped her unpack the groceries, pretending not to show how shaken he was. Then Reby suddenly remembered something. Oh, the chocolate. She ran to her bag, tore it open, and handed him one piece. "You helped me, so this is for you." Jason smiled. "Thank you, Reby." Before he could say more, a weak voice came from the doorway. "Reby, is that you? Honey? Where did you go? I've been looking for you." Reby turned quickly. "Mama," she cried and ran toward the door. A frail woman stood there, holding the frame for support. She was pale and trembling. "Mama, are you feeling better?" Reby asked, touching her forehead gently. "Don't worry about me, sweetheart. I'm fine," the woman whispered, but before she could finish, she collapsed. "Mama!" Reby screamed, shaking her desperately. Jason's eyes widened as he rushed forward. And in that moment, he froze. The woman lying on the floor was Nora, his ex-wife. "Sir, please help my mom," Reby cried. Jason didn't waste a second. He lifted Nora into his arms, his heart pounding as memories came flooding back. "Nora, oh my God," he whispered shakily. As he laid her on the couch, his hands trembled. If you're enjoying this story, please hit the like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more touching and emotional stories like this one. 1 hour later. "Wow, you're really good at cooking," Reby said happily as she sat at the small dining table, her legs swinging under the chair. "Careful, that's still hot," Jason warned gently as he placed a bowl of steaming porridge in front of her. "Are you sure you want this? We can order something better." Reby smiled and shook her head quickly. "No need. This is exactly what Mom and I like, simple but delicious." Jason smiled faintly. Since Nora was still unconscious, he decided to stay and take care of both of them. Deep down, he wanted to talk to her, to ask 1,000 questions, but now wasn't the right time. Not when she was lying sick and helpless. Reby took a spoonful and tasted the porridge. Her eyes widened. This is so good and hot," she exclaimed, fanning her mouth. Jason chuckled and took the spoon from her. "Let me blow on it before you burn your tongue." Reby giggled. "No, I can do it. I'm a big girl now," she said proudly and mimicked exactly how Jason blew on the spoon. Jason smiled, watching her closely, her expressions, her voice, even the little way she pouted when she blew on the food. That was when it hit him. The feeling he had been trying to understand since he met her. Reby wasn't just any little girl. She was Nora's daughter. And if his heart was right, she might be his daughter too. His chest tightened as he watched her eat the porridge he cooked with his own hands. He had spent years searching for Nora, years of regret and sleepless nights. They had married abroad, but pride and misunderstandings tore them apart. He had tried everything to find her, hoping for a second chance, but she vanished completely. And now, by some miracle, he had found her again, through this little angel. It all made sense now. The song Reby sang on the subway, their song. Jason blinked hard, fighting back tears. "Sir Jason, are you okay?" Reby asked softly when she saw his eyes glisten. "Do you want some porridge too? Don't cry." Here, she said innocently, raising a spoonful toward his mouth. Say ah before my arm gets tired, she added playfully. Jason chuckled, leaning forward. All right. You win. He opened his mouth and let her feed him. Is it good? She asked eagerly. It's delicious, he said, smiling. I hope your mom wakes up soon to taste it too. Ruby's face dimmed a little. She doesn't want to go to the hospital, she murmured sadly. She says she never gets better anyway. Jason's heart sank. He knew why. Even back when they were married, Nora had always been terrified of hospitals. She would rather stay in bed and suffer quietly than see a doctor. How long has your mom been sick? He asked gently. Ruby counted on her fingers. 4 days now. Her fever keeps getting worse. Jason stood quickly. Finish your food, Ruby. I'll be right back. He stepped outside and pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Daniel, he said the moment his secretary picked up. I found her. I found Nora. Congratulations, sir. Daniel replied, surprised. Thanks, but there's no time. She's sick. I need a doctor now. I'll send you the address. Jason hung up and hurried back inside. Ruby was at the kitchen sink, standing on a small stool, washing the dishes. You're done already? Jason asked, smiling softly. She turned with a bright grin. Oh, Sir Jason, you're back. I'm almost done. Jason admired her heart. Nora had truly raised a well-mannered, responsible little girl. Despite her young age, Ruby moved with the calmness of someone much older. Do you have anything else to do after this? Jason asked. I just want to take care of Mama, Ruby said, stepping carefully down from the stool and wiping her hands with a clean cloth. Then she looked up at him curiously. Aren't you leaving, Sir Jason? Jason smiled faintly. You want me to leave? No, she said quickly. I mean, maybe you have work to do. Jason rubbed his neck awkwardly. She was right. He did have work. He had even taken the subway earlier to clear his head. But now, work didn't matter. It's okay, he said softly. I'd rather be here with you and your mom. I'll go back to work later. Is it okay if I stay? Ruby nodded shyly but tilted her head. Why do you want to stay? Jason froze. He couldn't tell her the truth, not yet. Nora had to confirm what his heart already believed. I'm just worried, he finally said. Your mom is very sick, and you're the only one here. I can't just leave you two like this. Ruby blinked. Why not? Jason smiled weakly. Because it's the right thing to do. Ruby hummed, studying him suspiciously. You're strange, Sir Jason. Before Jason could reply, there was a sudden knock on the gate. That must be the doctor, he said quickly. Hold on, Ruby, I'll get it. Sure enough, a middle-aged man stood at the gate carrying a medical bag. Mr. Jason, the man greeted politely. Come in, Dr. Jackson, Jason said, opening the gate wider. The doctor entered, greeted Ruby kindly, and went straight to check on Nora. He gave her an injection and handed some drugs to Ruby. She's still weak, Dr. Jackson said quietly, but the fever should come down soon. Let her rest and make sure she eats something warm. Thank you, Doctor, Jason said gratefully. When the doctor left, Jason looked at Nora, sleeping peacefully now, and then at Ruby, who was sitting by her mother's side, gently fanning her. He felt something deep inside him shift. The next morning, sunlight streamed softly through the small window. Ruby was sweeping the floor in her mother's room, humming a cheerful tune. She stopped mid-song when she saw her mother stir and slowly open her eyes. Mom, good morning. Ruby shouted joyfully, dropping the broom and running to her bedside. She pressed her small hand to Nora's forehead. No more fever, she said excitedly. Are you still in pain? Nora chuckled weakly and reached out to touch her daughter's cheek. "I'm okay now, sweetheart. Thank you for taking care of me," she said, pulling Reby into a soft hug. "I promise I won't get sick again. I'll take care of you instead." Reby smiled happily. "I'm fine, Mom. Sir Jason helped me while you were sleeping. He even called a doctor. And Mom, you missed it. He makes really nice porridge." Nora frowned slightly. "Jason? Who's that?" "Oh, Sir Jason. My new friend," Reby said proudly. "He came yesterday but had to go back to work. You would have liked him. He's very kind." Nora brushed Ruby's hair gently. "Have you eaten?" "Yes, Mom. Don't worry," Reby replied softly. Nora smiled, though her heart ached. Her little girl was growing up too fast, taking care of her, cooking, cleaning, even talking about new friends like an adult. Later that morning, as Nora regained her strength, she got up to take care of the chores she had neglected. She made a pot of warm soup for herself and Reby. The small house smelled of fresh vegetables and love. Reby helped by sweeping and arranging things, her tiny hands moving with pride. "Sweetheart," Nora said as she scrubbed some clothes in a basin, "do you think your new friend will come back? I just want to thank him. He even brought a doctor. I need to pay him back for that." Reby shook her head quickly. "It's okay, Mom. You don't have to pay him. I already did." "What?" Nora asked, startled. "You paid him? With what?" Reby grinned, proud of herself. "Chocolate. I gave him 3 extra ones, too." For a split second, Nora's heart skipped, but when Reby explained it was just chocolate, she laughed in relief. "And did he accept your payment?" Nora asked with a smile. "Yes. He even smiled," Reby said excitedly. Nora smiled and shook her head. "You're such a sweet child. Because you were kind, I'll buy you ice cream today." Ruby's eyes lit up. "Really? Yay. Ice cream," she squealed, flashing her toothless grin. Nora teased her. "Won't your teeth hurt from all that sugar? Look, 2 are already missing." "I'll brush my teeth every day," Reby said proudly. "You're still cute anyway," Nora said, making a silly face. "Of course I am. I'm your daughter." Reby replied cheekily. They both laughed together, a sound that filled the small house with warmth. But their laughter faded when they suddenly heard a knock at the gate. "Mom, I'll get it," Reby said eagerly. She ran to wash her hands quickly and dashed to the door, hoping it was the man who had helped them. And it was. "Sir Jason," she cried joyfully, running to hug him. Jason smiled as he handed her a large stuffed teddy bear. "Thank you, Sir Jason," Reby said, hugging it tightly. "Mom's awake now. Come inside." Before Jason could say a word, Reby grabbed his hand and pulled him into the living room. Just then, Nora came out from the backyard where she had been doing laundry. She froze instantly. The piece of cloth she'd been using to wipe her sweat slipped from her hand. Her breath caught in her throat. The man standing in her living room wasn't just a visitor. It was Jason, her ex-husband. "Jason," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Hi, Nora," Jason said softly, his voice heavy with emotion. Nora straightened herself, trying to sound calm even though her heart was racing. "What are you doing here?" she asked sharply. "Please, let's talk before you judge me," Jason said quietly. He glanced at Reby and smiled faintly. "Sweetheart, can you give us a moment?" Nora took a deep breath. "Reby, go to your room." Reby looked confused but obeyed. She took her teddy bear and disappeared down the hallway. Nora went to the kitchen, filled a glass with water, and brought it to Jason, who was now sitting nervously on the couch. "Thanks," he said softly as she handed it to him. Nora's eyes were hard and unreadable. "Don't worry," she said with a touch of sarcasm. "It's not poisoned." Jason smiled faintly. "That's not what I was thinking. I'm just nervous." Right, Nora muttered. There was a long silence between them before she finally spoke again. Reby said you came when I was unconscious. I don't know why you showed up after all these years, but thank you. I heard you even brought a doctor. I'll pay you back soon. Jason looked straight at her. You don't have to pay me, Nora. I don't need your money. I've spent years searching for you. I just want to help. I want to make things right. I want to apologize. Nora let out a bitter laugh. Make things right. Now. I don't want to argue, Jason said softly. I just want to be part of Ruby's life. Doesn't she deserve a father? Nora froze. Her chest tightened. What Nora didn't know was that after Jason met Reby the first time, he had quietly gone for a paternity test, and the result confirmed it. Reby was indeed his daughter. But he still wanted to hear the truth from Nora herself. You have every right, Nora said finally, her voice trembling. I never said you don't. But you were gone, Jason. You left us. Still, I won't stop you from seeing her. Just give me a little time. Let me tell Reby myself. I don't want to shock her. Jason nodded slowly. I've already missed 6 years of her life, he said sadly. And whose fault is that? Nora snapped, her voice cracking. Jason looked down, guilt written all over his face. Please, Jason, Nora said softly after a pause. Just go, for now. I need time to think. Jason stood up quietly. I understand. Call me when you're ready. I can wait. He placed his calling card gently in her hand and walked out. Only after the door closed did Nora's strength finally break. Her tears fell freely. She sank into the chair, pressing the card to her chest. For years, she thought she had buried that part of her heart. But seeing him again, everything came rushing back. A week later, Nora and Jason finally agreed it was time to tell Reby the truth. They sat her down together, nervous, unsure of what her reaction would be. But to their surprise, Reby didn't cry or look upset when she learned her parents had once been married and then separated. Maybe it was because she was still young. Or maybe it was because her heart was simply pure. All Reby cared about was that she now had a dad, her dad. She was overjoyed. Mom, we're leaving now. Reby called out happily as she ran toward the gate, where Jason was waiting beside his car. Take care, sweetheart. Have fun, Nora said, following behind her with a warm smile. I will. You too, Mom, Reby said, waving cheerfully. Don't let her eat too many sweets, Nora reminded Jason firmly. And remember, she's allergic to seafood. Please make sure there's none of that in her food. Yes, Jason said playfully with a grin, saluting her. Don't joke with me, Jason, Nora said seriously. If anything happens to her, I swear I'll never forgive you. Jason's smile faded. His tone grew sincere. She's my daughter too, Nora. I'll take good care of her. I promise. Good, Nora replied, crossing her arms. You couldn't protect me when we were married. You better not fail her. Jason didn't argue. He knew she was right, and he knew she still carried pain from their past. But when she spoke again, her words softened. Okay, I'll give you one more chance. You don't need to make it up to me, just to Reby. Don't ever let her down. Jason nodded. I won't. Drive safe, Nora added, gently tapping his shoulder before heading back inside. Jason smiled faintly and walked Reby to the car. For the first time in years, he felt something he had missed deeply, a sense of family. Later that day, Nora spent the afternoon tending to her garden. The sun was warm, and the air smelled of flowers and fresh soil. Since it was Sunday, her flower shop was closed. Gardening had become her therapy, her way of thinking, healing, and staying strong. After her divorce, she had chosen to build something of her own instead of living off the settlement money. That little flower shop became her pride, her new beginning. By evening, she finished trimming her plants and went into the kitchen to cook. She smiled softly as she stirred the pot. At last, she said aloud, admiring the meal she had prepared. Reby will be tired when she comes back. She should have something hot waiting. She arranged the table neatly and sat near the door, glancing at her wristwatch every few minutes. It's already 5. Why aren't they back yet? She murmured, worry creeping in. Jason always dropped Reby off before 5. But now it was almost 5:30, and still no sign of them. Unable to sit still any longer, Nora stood up and walked toward the gate. Unlike before, when she'd wait by the door, this time she wanted to see the car as soon as it arrived. Minutes later, the sound of a car horn echoed from outside. Finally, Nora sighed with relief as she opened the gate. "Mom, I'm back," Reby said excitedly, jumping out of the black car, holding several shopping bags. "Reby, why are you carrying so many bags?" Nora asked in surprise. "So Jason and I went to the mall to buy clothes," Reby explained happily. "He said everything was free, so I picked plenty. And Mom, I even bought something for you." Nora's eyes moved to Jason, who stood beside the car, with a sheepish smile. "Sorry we're late," Jason said softly. "We got stuck in traffic. I didn't want to rush." Nora crossed her arms. "I know you want to make it up to Reby, but please think about her safety first. I don't want her coming home this late again." Jason quickly straightened up and raised his hand. "Yes, Jason," she said flatly. "You're not funny." "Sorry," he said quickly, scratching his head. "Do you want to come inside?" Nora asked suddenly as Reby ran into the house with her bags. Jason blinked, surprised. Really? Normally, she wouldn't let him pass the gate. Sometimes, she'd talk to him at the door, but never this. "You look tired," she said, folding her arms. "You can rest a bit before you drive off. And I cooked too much food anyway, Reby, and I can't finish it all." Jason smiled widely. "Perfect. I've been starving all day," he said, stepping inside. "Wow, Mom, there's so much food." Reby shouted excitedly when she saw the dining table. "Is it someone's birthday?" Nora laughed softly. "No one's birthday. I just wanted to cook something special." She couldn't admit that deep down, she wanted to show Jason she could also give Reby a good life, even without him. "Then why is there cake?" Reby asked curiously. "I had nothing else to do earlier," Nora said quickly. "So, I just baked. You don't want it." Reby laughed, and Jason joined her. "We definitely want it," Jason said. "Thanks for inviting me," he added with a small smile. Nora nodded, smiling faintly. "No problem. Thanks for making our daughter happy." That evening, the three of them sat around the table together, talking, laughing, and sharing food. It was the first time in 6 long years that they ate as a family again. And for a brief, quiet moment, it almost felt like nothing had ever gone wrong. "Thank you. Please come again," Nora said cheerfully to a customer as they left her flower shop. It was only Monday, yet the shop was already bustling with people buying flowers. The sweet scent of roses filled the air. Nora wiped her hands on her apron and smiled to herself. Business was good, and that meant she could take care of Reby without struggling. "Vivian," she called softly to her assistant, who was arranging some lilies near the counter. "Have you had lunch? Go and eat something. I'll take care of things, eh?" "Thanks. I'm starving," Vivian said, her eyes lighting up as she hurried toward the small kitchen at the back. A few minutes later, she returned shyly, holding a small box. "I brought brownies," she said with a smile. "I'm still learning to bake, so I hope they are okay. I saved some for Reby too." "You didn't have to," Nora said warmly, taking one. "Thank you, Vivian. They are delicious. Reby will love them." As she chewed, Nora glanced around the shop, making sure everything was in order. By the way, where's Reby? Oh, she went out with her dad, she said softly, almost to herself. I told her to stay home, but she was so excited. They were going to the amusement park. Nora shook her head and smiled faintly. Those two, she muttered. She picked another brownie and continued checking her flour inventory, humming quietly as she worked. But then her phone buzzed on the counter. The smile on her face faded the instant she saw the name flashing on the screen, Jason. Her hand hesitated before picking it up. She wasn't ready for this, for the emotions that always came whenever she heard his voice. Still, she swiped to answer. Hello, she said, her tone cautious. There was silence on the other end. Jason, what is it? Did something happen? Where's Reby? She asked, frowning. Still, no answer. Jason, answer me. You're making me nervous. Don't panic, Jason finally said in a low, shaky voice. The truth is, what? Just say it. Nora said sharply, her voice trembling. Jason's next words made her heart drop. Ruby's in the hospital. She collapsed on the way to the amusement park. For a moment, Nora couldn't breathe. Her chest tightened. I knew it, she said weakly. I shouldn't have let her go out today. You knew she wasn't feeling well, but you still took her, she snapped angrily. Jason stayed quiet. He knew she was speaking from fear, not anger. Which hospital are you in? Nora demanded, her voice shaking. I'm coming right now. Don't leave Reby alone, please. She's scared of injections. Please don't let anything happen to her. Her fingers trembled as she ended the call. She pressed a hand over her mouth, trying to stop her sobs, but the tears kept coming. Vivian, she called out. Vivian rushed out from the back, alarmed. Yes. What's wrong? I need to go to the hospital, Nora said quickly, wiping her tears. Please stay and close up the shop later. I might not come back today. No problem. Don't worry. I've got it, Vivian replied sincerely. Nora nodded, grabbed her bag, and rushed outside. The ride to the hospital felt endless. Her mind was racing, her heart beating so fast it hurt. She hadn't stepped foot in a hospital for years, not since the day she lost both her parents in that terrible accident. Since then, hospitals had terrified her. She avoided them completely, taking every vitamin and herbal drink she could to stay strong. But now, it was different. This time, it was her child. Here's the fare, she said quickly to the taxi driver as they arrived, not even waiting for her change. She jumped out and ran toward the hospital entrance, but just as she reached the door, she froze. Her legs felt heavy. Her breath caught. The smell of disinfectant and the sound of distant monitors sent chills through her. She couldn't move. Nora, a familiar voice called. Jason hurried toward her and caught her just before she stumbled. He pulled her into a tight hug. I know you're scared, he whispered. But you don't have to face this alone. How is Reby? Nora asked immediately, tears already rolling down her face. Why are you here? I told you not to leave her alone. Jason gently held her shoulders. She's fine, Nora. She woke up a while ago. She's sleeping again now. The doctor said it's just the flu. The fever got too high, but we caught it early. Flu? Nora whispered, still trembling. Yes, Jason nodded. She just needs some rest and a blood transfusion. Don't worry, everything's under control. I already paid the bills. He thought his words would comfort her, but Nora suddenly hit his chest with both hands, her voice breaking. Flu? How? I clean everything, Jason. I wash the sheets, the curtains. I disinfect the whole house. How did this happen? Jason caught her wrists gently. It's not your fault, Nora, he said softly. She must have been bitten by a mosquito or picked it up somewhere else. You know how kids are. She plays outside a lot." Nora lowered her head, her tears falling silently. He was right. But still, the thought of Reby lying in that hospital bed broke her heart into pieces. "I should have protected her better," she whispered. Jason wrapped his arms around her again. "You did everything you could," he said gently. "She's strong, just like her mother." And for the first time in years, Nora didn't push him away. She simply stood there, crying softly in his arms, praying for her little girl to get better. Days later, inside the quiet hospital room, Reby sat up in bed, her bright eyes full of curiosity. "Mom, where are we going?" she asked cheerfully. She had spent nearly a week in the hospital, but now she was finally strong enough to go home. The doctor had given her the all-clear to be discharged. "To your dad's place," Nora said softly, folding clothes into a small travel bag. After breaking down the day Reby collapsed, Nora had finally faced her fear of hospitals. The smell of disinfectant still made her uneasy, but her love for Reby was stronger than her fear. "Your dad's house is bigger and more comfortable," she explained. "So, we agreed you'll stay there for a while until you fully recover. Remember Dr. Jackson? He'll be checking on you while you rest at your dad's." Ruby's eyes widened. "Really? But, Mom, are you coming with me?" Nora paused, then smiled and gently caressed her daughter's cheek. "Of course, sweetheart. I wouldn't leave you alone. Wherever you are, I'll be there." Even though she was young, Reby understood more than most children her age. She knew her parents had hurt each other in the past, but she still hoped they'd find their way back. "Mom," she asked suddenly, "do you still love Dad?" Nora froze, her hand halfway through zipping the bag. "Why would you ask that?" "Well," Reby began innocently, "he's my dad and you were his wife. That means you loved him before, right? But he said you left because you were mad at him. So, does that mean you don't love him anymore?" Nora stared at her little girl, searching for the right words. Then she smiled softly. "Of course I loved him. That's why I have you," she said tenderly. "But you, Reby, you're the one I love the most in the world." She tickled Reby playfully, and the little girl squealed with laughter. "Mom, stop it," she said, wriggling away. Their laughter filled the room, until Jason's voice broke the moment. "Oh, you're ready," he said as he stepped into the room, smiling. "Let me help you with your things." "I've got it," Nora replied quickly, avoiding his gaze as she zipped the last bag. "Reby, change your clothes so you can rest when we get to your dad's, okay?" Jason picked up the bag. "I'll take this to the car." "Thank you," Nora said quietly. He smiled at Reby. "I'll be back soon. Wait here, okay?" "Yes, Dad," she said happily. But just as he turned to leave, she called out again, "Dad." Jason stopped and turned. "Yes." "Mom said she still loves you," Reby announced proudly. Nora's eyes widened in shock. "Reby." Reby quickly covered her mouth. "Oops. Sorry." Jason stood frozen for a second, trying not to grin. "Is that true?" he asked, his voice low and teasing. "Come on, Reby," Nora said quickly, pretending to be busy. "Let's get you cleaned up." "Why aren't you leaving yet?" she added, giving Jason a playful glare. Jason chuckled. Right. I'm going now." But after taking a few steps toward the door, he paused and looked back. "Nora," he said softly. She lifted her head slightly. "I love you too," he said with a smile, and dashed off before she could respond. "Sir." "No running in the hallway," a nurse shouted after him. Nora could only shake her head and whisper under her breath, "Unbelievable." "Wow, Dad, your house is huge," Reby exclaimed as the car pulled into the compound. Jason got out first to open the door, but Nora had already stepped out. "I'll carry the bags," she said. "It's okay, I've got this," Jason replied with a grin. You'll need to carry Reby, right? Let me handle the rest." Nora gave a small nod, and Jason opened the back door, gently lifting Reby out. The little girl's eyes widened in amazement as she looked around the grand mansion. "Do you like it?" Jason asked, smiling as they walked inside. "If you don't, we can redecorate. Just tell me what you want." Reby shook her head quickly. "No need, Dad. It's already beautiful." Her eyes glistened with tears as she looked around her new room, spacious, warm, and filled with love. Jason smiled, sitting beside her on the bed and pulling her onto his lap. "Before you were born, your mom and I dreamed of giving you a room like this. And now that you're here, we want to give you everything you need. Don't be afraid to ask, okay?" Reby threw her tiny arms around his neck. "Thank you, Dad, and thank you for getting along with Mom again. I know Mom still loves you, just like you love her and me." Jason hugged her tighter, his eyes misty. "You are a little miracle, Reby." One Sunday afternoon. "Mom, are you done getting dressed?" Reby called, peeking into Nora's room. "Almost, sweetheart," Nora replied, tying her hair neatly. "Okay, done," she added, smiling at her reflection. It had been almost a month since Reby started staying at Jason's mansion. Surprisingly, things between Nora and Jason had been calm and peaceful. They still had moments of tension, but the love that once burned between them was slowly finding its way back. "Mom, you're so pretty," Reby said admiringly as Nora stepped out in a soft floral gown. "And my baby is so cute," Nora replied, pinching her cheeks playfully. They both laughed. From the living room, Jason's voice echoed, "Are my girls ready?" "Looks like your dad is waiting," Nora said, crouching to carry Reby. "One day soon, I won't be able to lift you like this anymore." "Yay! Family date!" Reby squealed, raising her little hands in excitement. "Oh, you're ready already," Jason said, smiling as they walked downstairs. He took Reby from Nora's arms and lifted her high. "Come here, princess." "Sweetheart, don't move too much in the car," Nora reminded her. "And don't unbuckle your seat belt again, it's dangerous." "Okay, Mom. I promise," Reby said obediently. As they drove off, Reby looked at both her parents with the widest smile. "I love you both so much," she said softly from the back seat. Jason and Nora exchanged glances. Her words hit deep. For a long moment, neither spoke. Their minds wandered back to the years they had lost, years filled with silence, regret, and distance. "If I had just been more patient," Nora thought painfully, "maybe we wouldn't have separated. Maybe Reby wouldn't have grown up missing her father." Jason clenched his jaw quietly. "If only I had made her my priority instead of my work," he thought. Maybe things would have been different. Their separation had started years ago, when Jason's work consumed him. He rarely came home, always traveling for meetings and late-night projects. One night, Nora had gone to his office, worried, and found him with a female colleague who had kissed him unexpectedly. Jason had pushed the woman away immediately, but Nora had already seen enough. Her heart broke that night. The trust between them was shattered. No matter how hard Jason tried to explain, she didn't believe him. Eventually, she left. And a few weeks later, she discovered she was pregnant. Now, sitting in the car with their daughter between them, both parents realized that love had never really died. It had only been buried under hurt. Jason reached out and took Nora's hand gently. "We love you so much, Reby," he said softly. Reby smiled brightly. "I know, Dad." They laughed quietly together, the air between them lighter than it had been in years. Later that day, the family went out for lunch at a beautiful restaurant. The chandeliers sparkled, and soft music played in the background. "Wow, Dad, this place is so fancy," Reby whispered, looking around in awe. "Mom, is it expensive?" Before Nora could answer, Jason winked. Don't worry. Daddy's paying. That's right, Nora teased. Order anything you want. You too, Jason said playfully, turning to her. Whatever you want, my treat. Reby giggled. Did you hear that, Mom? We can order anything. Jason didn't mind. No amount of money could replace the 6 years he had missed with them. After the meal, they headed to the amusement park. Dad, I want to ride the horror train. Reby shouted excitedly, pointing to the long line of people. Jason and Nora exchanged looks but smiled. All right, Jason said. Let's go. As the train started moving into a dark tunnel, Nora's laughter turned into screams. Jason, there's a ghost, she yelled, clutching his arm tightly. Jason tried not to laugh. Relax, Nora. It's just an actor. I want to get off, she said, almost crying. You can't get off now, Jason teased. Do you want the ghost to keep you? I'm serious, Jason. I can't do this, she sobbed, burying her face in his arm. Reby was laughing, braver than her mom. Jason rubbed Nora's arm gently. It's okay, he whispered. I'm here. Reby and I are right here. When he felt her trembling, he pulled her closer, holding her tight in the darkness. Then, without thinking, he leaned down and kissed her forehead gently. Don't cry, he whispered softly. You're safe. Reby giggled. Mom, Dad's hugging you too tight. In the darkness, Jason smiled, and before Nora could pull away, he brushed his lips against hers. Nora's cheeks flushed immediately. You're crazy, she whispered. Jason grinned. Maybe, but I'm crazy about you. Thankfully, it was dark inside the tunnel, so she didn't have to hide the shy smile that crept onto her face. The next morning, the golden sunlight filtered through the mansion windows. I'm leaving now, Jason said as he walked toward the door, carrying Reby in his arms. He had been off work for several days, taking time to be with his family. Days filled with laughter, breakfast together, and quiet peace. But now, duty was calling. The pile of files waiting for him at the office couldn't be ignored any longer. Take care, Daddy, Reby said sweetly, kissing his cheek. Come home early after work, okay? Jason chuckled softly. Of course. What should I bring you later? Reby tilted her head, thinking. I can't think of anything. Just come home early and safe. That's all I want. Jason smiled warmly and kissed her forehead. Deal. Be good for your mom while I'm gone, all right? I will. Reby said proudly. Nora stood by the door, arms crossed but with a faint smile on her face. Take care, and don't overwork yourself, she said softly. Her tone was gentle, just like the old Nora he used to know. Hearing her care again, even in such few words, made Jason's heart flutter. He smiled, walked up to her, and planted a light kiss on her cheek. You two have a great day, he said. Nora's cheeks turned pink. Bye, she said quickly, trying to hide his smile. Reby waved until Jason's car disappeared down the street. Mom, are you doing anything today? Reby asked, noticing her mother staring off into space. Hey. Nora blinked, snapping out of her thoughts. Oh, right. I need to go to the flower shop. Vivian might be having a hard time handling things alone. Do you want to come with me? Reby nodded excitedly. Yes. I want to see Miss Vivian. At the flower shop, the little bell above the door jingled softly as they entered. Hi, Miss Vivian. Reby said cheerfully. Vivian turned, her face lighting up. Reby. Long time no see. She reached into her pocket and pulled out 2 strawberry lollipops. Want one? Reby smiled politely. Thank you, Miss Vivian. Vivian handed her both. One for now, one for later, she said playfully. Nora set down her bag and went straight to arranging the flower display. Vivian, Sorry it took me so long to come back. How have things been? I hope you haven't had too much trouble." Vivian smiled. "Everything's fine. Honestly, I feel guilty being paid when there isn't much to do lately. But I'm glad you're getting some rest." Nora chuckled softly. "Don't worry, you've done great. I'll give you a small bonus next month for holding things down." Vivian's face lit up. "Thank you so much." Nora laughed. "You deserve it." They spent the entire day at the shop, Nora handling customers, Vivian taking care of deliveries, and Ruby drawing little flowers in her sketchbook. By evening, they locked up and headed home, tired but happy. Meanwhile, at the office, Jason sat behind his desk, surrounded by piles of paperwork. His tie was loose, and his eyes were tired. "Excuse me, sir," Daniel, his secretary, said, walking in. "You have a visitor." Jason frowned. "A visitor? I'm not expecting anyone. Send them away. I'm busy." Daniel hesitated, then said carefully, "Sir, it's Miss Raymond." Jason froze. The pen dropped from his hand. "What?" he said coldly. "What is she doing here?" "I don't know, sir," Daniel replied quietly. Jason rubbed his temples in frustration. "Tell her to leave. I don't want to see her. That woman only brings trouble." Lizzie Raymond. The name alone made his blood boil. Years ago, she had been one of his employees abroad, and the very woman who had caused the biggest misunderstanding of his life. The day Nora saw her kiss him in his office, that was the day everything fell apart. "Understood, sir," Daniel said, heading for the door. But before he could reach it, the door swung open. A tall, fair-skinned woman walked in confidently, her heels clicking against the tiled floor. "Jason," she said with a sly smile, "it's been so long." Her perfume filled the office, sharp and strong. She wore a tight red dress, and her tone dripped with fake sweetness. Jason's expression turned to stone. "What are you doing here, Lizzie?" She ignored the anger in his voice and walked closer. "I waited for you, Jason. You never called, never came to see me. So I decided to come instead. You don't mind, do you?" "Leave," Jason said firmly. Lizzie smiled mockingly. "What if I don't want to leave? I heard you and your wife split up. So here I am." She reached out to touch his arm, but Jason pulled back immediately. "Don't even try that," he said coldly. "Don't think for a second that I want you just because Nora and I separated. I will never want you." Liz's smile faded. "You'll regret saying that," she said in a low, bitter voice. Jason slammed his hand on the table. "The only thing I regret is ever hiring you. You almost destroyed my life once. I won't let you do it again." He turned sharply to Daniel. "Call security. I don't care if they have to drag her out. I never want to see her face again." "Yes, sir," Daniel said immediately, reaching for his phone. Lizzie folded her arms and scoffed. "Just wait, Jason Felix. Sooner or later, you'll come crawling back to me." Jason glared at her. "That's impossible," he said quietly. "As long as you're not Nora, or the mother of my child, I will never waste a second of my time on you." Security arrived moments later and escorted Lizzie out of the office. Jason sank into his chair, rubbing his forehead. He felt anger boiling inside him, but also fear. He had just started rebuilding his family. And now, the same woman who destroyed his marriage once had come back. This time, he couldn't afford another mistake. Evening settled quietly over the mansion as Nora and Ruby returned from the flower shop. Nora opened the door, humming softly, but the tune died on her lips the moment she stepped inside. Her eyes widened in disbelief. There, sitting comfortably on the sofa and sipping coffee like she owned the house, was the last woman Nora ever wanted to see, Lizzie Raymond. The same woman who once came between her and Jason. Nora's hand trembled as she dropped her purse. "What are you doing here, she asked coldly, her voice shaking with restrained anger. Lizzie looked up lazily, crossing her legs. "Well, look who it is," she said mockingly. "I thought Jason left you. Why are you still hanging around him even though you're separated?" Her eyes shifted toward Reby, who stood half hidden behind Nora. "And don't tell me that's your kid. What is this? You using her to win Jason back?" Ruby's little face tightened. "That's not true," she shouted, her voice trembling. "My mom's not like that." Lizzie laughed sarcastically. "You're just a kid. Didn't your worthless mother ever teach you not to talk when adults are speaking?" That was it. Nora could handle any insult thrown at her, but not one aimed at her daughter. "You brat," Nora snapped furiously as she snatched the cup of coffee from Liz's hand and threw it straight into her face. "Ah, it's hot," Lizzie screamed, jumping up in pain. "That's nothing," Nora said coldly. "Hell's flames are hotter. Consider this practice." Lizzie staggered back, wiping her wet face. But Nora wasn't done. She grabbed a vase from the side table, pulled out the flowers, and poured the cold water on Liz's head. "Are you crazy?" Lizzie shrieked. "This is for insulting my daughter," Nora said, her voice calm and icy. She lifted the flowers and began smacking Lizzie with them like a broom. "Stop it. Oh, stop," Lizzie cried, trying to dodge the blows. The sound of shouting and crashing filled the living room, just as Jason walked in from the hallway. "What on earth is going on here?" he exclaimed, completely stunned. "Dad." Reby ran straight to him. "That lady said I was worthless, so Mom got mad." Jason's jaw clenched. His blood boiled at the thought of anyone insulting his child. He rushed forward. "That's enough, Nora. Let me handle this," he said, trying to take the flowers from her hand. Lizzie, whose face was now dripping with water and covered in petals, ran behind Jason and sobbed. "Jason, she attacked me. She's crazy." "Don't you dare call me crazy," Nora shouted, stepping forward. Before Jason could react, she smacked Lizzie one more time and accidentally hit Jason's arm. "Oh, hey, not me too," Jason said, raising his hands in defense. Nora's chest was rising and falling in anger. "Get out. Both of you," she yelled, pointing at the door. Lizzie gasped. "You can't." "Out," Nora shouted again. Jason took Lizzie by the arm and pushed her gently toward the door. "Leave, Lizzie. Now. I'll make you regret this," Lizzie hissed before storming out. When the door slammed shut, silence filled the house. Jason turned, ready to explain, but Nora was already walking upstairs with Reby in her arms. "I'll explain everything," Jason called after her. But Nora didn't look back. Her heart was too heavy, her trust too shaken. Inside Ruby's room, Nora set her daughter down and sank onto the bed. Her hands trembled as tears filled her eyes. "I thought he changed," she whispered to herself. "But I guess some people never do." "Mom," Reby said softly, climbing onto the bed beside her. "Are you okay?" Nora wiped her eyes quickly and forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Don't worry about me." But Reby reached up and gently wiped her mother's tears with her small hands. "Please don't cry, Mom." That broke Nora completely. She pulled Reby close and cried harder. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "If I had known things would turn out like this, I would have chosen a better man to be your dad." She didn't fully mean it, but her pain made the words spill out. Then, after a long pause, she added softly, "But no matter what, he's still your dad. Please don't hate him, okay?" Reby nodded through her own tears. "I promise I'll talk to him," Nora said gently. "That woman will never come back here. And if you want, we can go back to our old house. It's small, but it's just us, and we're happy there, right?" Reby hugged her tightly. "Yes, Mom. I just don't want you and Dad to fight anymore." Moments later, there was a knock on the door. Nora took a deep breath and wiped her tears. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered. "Sometimes your mom just gets too soft." "I love you, Mom," Ruby said, smiling through her tears. "No matter what happens, I love you and Dad both." Nora smiled weakly. "I love you too, my angel." Then Jason's voice came from outside. "Nora, please, can we talk?" Nora hesitated, then stood up. She looked at Ruby, who nodded encouragingly. When she opened the door, Jason was standing there, guilt written all over his face. "Believe me," he said immediately, "nothing is going on between me and Lizzie. There never was, and there never will be." He didn't even wait for her to step out of the room. His voice shook as he spoke, afraid she'd walk away again. "I've been wanting to say this for a long time," he continued. "I have no connection with Lizzie or anyone else, only you. I know I failed you before. I know I didn't make time for you. But I never stopped loving you, Nora." Nora looked at him, tears already welling up. "If that's true," she whispered, "then why did you agree to the divorce so easily?" Jason looked down, his shoulders slumped. "Because you were so angry. You wouldn't listen to me. All you wanted was to leave, and I didn't want to force you." His voice broke slightly. "After you left, I realized how wrong I was. I shouldn't have let you go. I searched for you everywhere, but I couldn't find you. I thought maybe you didn't want to be found." Nora bit her lip, fighting back tears. Deep inside, she knew she had been stubborn too hurt to listen, too scared to forgive. Jason took a step closer. "Nora, I'm telling you all this because I don't want to lose you again. I don't want to lose Ruby. You're the only woman I've ever wanted to spend my life with." Nora broke down completely, tears streaming down her face. "Jason," she said softly, "what are we supposed to do now? I can't keep pretending I don't care about you." She wiped her cheeks. "The truth is, I still love you. I always have." Jason froze. Then, without a word, he pulled her into a tight embrace, holding her as if he'd never let her go again. He whispered against her ear, "In that case, can you be mine again?" Nora smiled through her tears and hugged him tighter. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'd love that." Jason's heart flooded with relief. For the first time in years, he felt whole again. Before he could say anything else, they heard a small voice behind them. "Yay!" Ruby clapped joyfully, tears in her eyes. "Mom and Dad are okay again." Jason and Nora turned in surprise as Ruby grinned from her bed. "Are you getting married again?" she asked eagerly. Jason chuckled, glancing at Nora. "What do you think, princess? Do you want to see Mom become my bride again?" Ruby nodded excitedly. "Of course. I still need to be the flower girl, remember." Jason smiled and turned back to Nora. "I love you," he whispered before kissing her gently. "I love you too," Nora replied softly, resting her head against his chest. Ruby clapped happily. "Best day ever," she said with a wide grin. That night, after tucking Ruby into bed, Nora kissed her daughter's forehead. "Good night, sweetheart." Ruby smiled sleepily. "Good night, Mom. Don't forget to tell Dad I love him too." Nora looked down at her little girl, the reason they found their way back to love, and smiled with tears in her eyes. "Don't worry, baby," she whispered. "He already knows." "She must really be tired," Nora said softly, smiling as she looked at Ruby sleeping peacefully in her room, surrounded by scattered flower petals. Jason came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "She had so much fun tossing flowers today," he said with a quiet laugh. It was their first night together again, this time as husband and wife once more. The wedding had been simple and intimate, attended only by close friends and family. There were no crowds, no noise, just love and laughter. And, just as Nora wanted, Reby had proudly walked down the aisle as a flower girl, sprinkling petals with joy written all over her face. Now, the house was quiet. The lights were soft. And for the first time in years, peace filled their hearts completely. Jason kissed Nora gently on the shoulder. "Do you want to be exhausted too?" he teased with a grin, turning her toward him. Nora blushed, her cheeks warm. "Jason, Reby might wake up," she whispered. "She's fast asleep," he murmured, brushing his lips against hers. Nora tried to look serious but failed to hide her smile. "Hey, pregnancy isn't easy, you know," she said teasingly as he guided her toward their bedroom. "I know," Jason said sincerely, holding her close. "I'm sorry I wasn't there when you were pregnant with Reby. But you don't have to worry anymore. I'm here now, for you, and for our next one." Nora blinked in surprise. "Next one," she laughed softly. "Don't tell me you want another baby already. Reby might get jealous." Jason chuckled. "No way. She's the one who asked for it. She said she doesn't care if it's a boy or girl. She just wants a sibling." Nora smiled shyly. "Well then," she said playfully, lying down on the bed, "what are we waiting for?" Jason laughed quietly and joined her. "You know I'm weak when it comes to you," he whispered. And that night, their laughter and love filled the room once again. Two hearts healed by time, forgiveness, and faith. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Life in the Felix household bloomed beautifully. Then one morning, the long-awaited news came. Nora had given birth to a healthy baby boy. Reby was overjoyed. She had been waiting for this day since she first heard the word pregnant. "Mom, baby's diaper is full," Reby shouted one afternoon, trying to calm her crying baby brother. "Just a moment, sweetheart," Nora said as she prepared his milk in the kitchen. "I'm almost done." "I've got the diaper," Jason called from the doorway, loosening his tie as he walked in. "You're home already?" Nora said, smiling as she approached him. Jason gave her a quick kiss. "Of course. I can't miss this chaos," he said jokingly, heading straight to change the diaper. "All right, but after that, go and change your clothes too," Nora said warmly. She turned to the maid nearby. "Please prepare some snacks." "Thank you." "Yes," the maid replied with a cheerful smile. As she moved toward the kitchen, the maid paused for a moment to watch them, the family she'd seen grow and heal over the years. She remembered when Jason first brought her to this house, back when things were full of tension and silence. Now, everything had changed. The laughter, the love, the peace, it was all genuine. "Ah, love really is something else," she whispered to herself, smiling as Jason and Nora stood side by side, laughing while Reby cuddled her baby brother. The sunset cast a golden glow through the window, wrapping the family in a soft, warm light. Jason gently placed his arm around Nora and kissed her forehead. "Thank you for giving me another chance," he said quietly. Nora smiled, her eyes shining. "Thank you for never giving up." Reby giggled as she rocked the baby's cradle. "Mom, Dad, this is the happiest day ever." Jason and Nora looked at each other, hearts full, smiles soft, peace restored. And in that quiet, golden evening, surrounded by love and laughter, their story came full circle. And that is where the love story of Jason and Nora ends, not in pain or regret, but in forgiveness, family, and forever. From this story we have learned that true love isn't perfect. It's about forgiveness, patience, and learning to fight for each other even when it hurts. Sometimes, distance and pain teach us what we should have valued all along. Never let pride destroy what love built. A simple "I'm sorry" can heal more than years of silence. A real family is not about wealth or perfection, but about unity, laughter, and staying together through every storm. Trust can be broken, but with honesty and effort, it can also be rebuilt stronger than before. So guys, can love truly survive betrayal and time apart? What did you learn from Reby, the little girl who just wanted her parents to be happy again? Speak your mind freely in the comments section. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Every opinion matters, and your words might help someone else who's going through the same thing. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video to show your love for the story. Share it with someone who still believes in second chances. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss more amazing, emotional stories like this. Your support keeps these stories alive.